After covering 130 kilometers, we have arrived at the Korgalzhyn Reserve in the early morning. The dawn is yet to begin to gain its color at full strength, not a single cloud in the sky. Silhouettes of shrubs rise from the mist and reeds darken closer to the horizon. It's early morning. The sun is about to rise. There is so much water around. It's fog. The grass is covered with bead-like dew. Small dispersed particles of dust stuck on spider webs makes it more prominent and frighteningly large. Insects are yet to come out. They are hiding in the grass. But in an hour or hour and a half, the dew will dry out and it will be teeming with life.
Роса высохнет, и жизнь закипит.
There are more than 60 freshwater and salt lakes on the territory of the reserve. The main reservoirs are closed Lake Tenghiz and open Korgalzhin. These are important nesting sites for millions of migrating birds. The lakes are almost completely covered with dense thickets of reeds and cattails. They feed on Nura River and groundwaters. During spring, the Kulanutpes River provides fresh water. Stream pools dividing the Lake Korgalzhin have separate names: Sultan-Keldy, Yesey, Kokai, Zhamankol and Kazatskoye. Together with Berik Respive, the leading scientific specialist of the reserve, we are approaching the Lake Yesey. About 50% of the Korgalzhin Nature Reserve is water. We literally have only one road in front of us. The rest is water, small water pools on the right and left, base, swamps. Simply paradise, paradise for water species. There are so many waders, amazing. I have never seen so many. What species of waders live here? Which ones are comfortable here? As you can see, there are many of them. We've got ruffs, black-winged stilts. You can also see Eurasian curlews and whimbrel. And smaller birds, phalaropes, curlew sandpipers, dunlins. You also can see little stints and Eurasian oystercatcher. Basically, we have more than 30 species from the waders family in our reserve. Korgalzhyn Reserve is the nesting place of the sociable lapwing. On average, each year there are about 100 individuals of this red-listed bird. There are also forest species, Eurasian woodcock. He was described by many famous hunter writers as the best hunting trophy. But now this bird is a great rarity. It can only be seen in these parts in spring during the migration. Wader family, are they flexible? How many eggs do they have? Quite flexible. On average, waders have 4 eggs in a clutch, sometimes more. Waders, just like duck family birds, can get on their feet a few hours after they hatch. Pretty nimble. Their colors blend well with nature, with the terrain. Survival rate of little chicks is quite high. A question that interests many: where do they fly during winter? Many anseriforms winter in Central Asia, Iran, Pakistan, Turkey and the south of the Caspian. Some species of birds of prey prefer African lakes. The lapwing winters in Kenya.
Ту же кречетку, если брать, то она тоже считается как далее к Кении, там они зимуют.
Three main migration routes of birds pass through the Tenghiz-Korgalzhin system of lakes, through the Mediterranean Sea, Central Asia and East Africa. All three migration routes are joined at Lake Tenghiz. Therefore, in spring, during the molting season, and also in the autumn, up to 15 million birds can be found on the territory of the reserve. Tens of thousands of geese choose wetlands of the Korgalzhyn Nature Reserve as their nesting site. Of these, two kinds of geese are more common: grey-legged goose and greater white-fronted goose. Sometimes a red-breasted goose and a taiga bean goose come here too.
Как вы считаете, этот год можно считать?
Do you think this year can be considered successful for geese reproduction? Yes. This year we have registered broods consisting of an average of 6 to 7 chicks, so I think it's a good year. And on average, if you take Lake Yesey, we have 25 to 40 broods that we register. I think this is a good year, especially for ducks. We observed cases when 7 to 8 chicks. And when the geese will be able to fly? The molting season begins on the 15th of June, and around the 10th of July, the first decade of July, they already can fly. When they molt, they are completely helpless. They can only swim and dive. They can't fly yet. Yes, this is typical of many geese. For anseriforms, they lose the ability to fly around this time. This usually takes some time within 3 weeks, and at this time they find areas with young reeds so that they can feed freely and naturally, a protected place from the winds, from predators, and so on. The shores of the Korgalzhin lakes are low and swampy. Many islands appear and disappear depending on the water level in the reservoir. It's quite difficult reaching it by car, especially in the rainy season. Tenacious, viscous dirt dries, becoming solid like a stone. It is in such remote, swampy places that the population of pink flamingos nests.
Гогот, кряканье, свист крыльев.
Goggles, quacking, whistling wings, and abundance of birds, the area is teeming with life. But we are here for flamingos. Notice how this bird feeds. Heads tilted down, they slowly wander, and not a single reed around. It indicates that the water is salty, the reed just doesn't grow. Flamingos don't like reeds. This bird loves open areas. They tend to easily spot predators from afar, because in reeds a fox or a wolf can quietly sneak up to them. And in an open area, nothing like that is possible. The only threat are big predators, but when the flamingos take off, their primary feathers are black. These dazzles predators, they lose their landmark and are not able to focus and single out their prey. This saves the colony of flamingos.
У хищника рябит в глазах, он теряет ориентир и не может сфокусироваться на какой-то определенной жертве. Это и спасает колонию фламинго.
It's interesting to observe how flamingos feed. The birds walk very slowly and filter the water, picking food. They can feed all day. If it is cold, they firmly stand on one leg. Why are they doing this? Well, strong wind means loss of heat, and flamingos have very warm plumage. When the bird presses the leg up, it gets warm. This is the way these birds resist lowering temperatures in the fall or early spring. I'm analyzing the structure of the bird's beak. Looks like flamingos are in fact a water vacuum cleaner. They filter the water, filter for insects, swallow them and digest. But what about their chicks? What are they feeding on? Good question. We biologists have such term as bird's milk. 30% of it consists of blood, so to speak. These are the main nutritional enzymes that strengthen the bird. The first 3 weeks of life, the chicks should be fed with bird's milk. All because chick's beak hasn't yet formed, and so it cannot get food on its own. Yes, exactly. The first 3 weeks they have a smooth beak. On the 3rd week of their life, they start feeding on their own. After this time, a band appears on their beak. There are between 500 to 2,000 chicks in one colony on an island on average. Their parents feed them while they get stronger. What is interesting is that when parents arrive from the shores, they have special call. When they call for their chicks, only their chicks come out, not the whole crowd, and parents feed their chicks only.
Когда они зовут своих птенцов, все этой гурьбой не бегут, именно выходят его птенцы, и они кормят своих именно птенцов.
In the last 10 years, the number of flamingos in the region remained stable. On average, from 5 to 15,000 red-winged birds nest here. Some years, up to 50,000 individuals were registered. The size of a population depends on many factors. First, the alternation of natural cycles, dry and high water periods of the lake system. If a lot of fresh water gets in the spring in Tenghiz, it loses its salinity. This means less crustaceous Actimia salina, the main food source of flamingos. Crustaceans go deeper, making it harder to reach them. But this has its advantages. Poacher hunters stopped looking for saline Actimia cyst, which makes the life of other birds calmer on the reservoirs. They build their nests and breed without disruptions. I see the horizon. There is not a single tree in front of the coast, almost no reeds. How do these birds build their nests? Do they breed chicks on earthen bumps or on the silt? Yes, on those islands they build nests of silt. On average, the height of the nest is about 60 centimeters. It depends on the water level. The higher the water, the higher they try to raise the nest. The wetlands of the Korgalzhyn Nature Reserve represent its own kind of ecosystem. There are over 300 species of high plants. There are no trees, mostly typical steppe grasses and shrubs. Plants adapted to life on highly saline soils are separated into a special group.
Солероз европейский.
Saliconia europaea, or common glasswort. This plant warns the traveler, beware of salt marshes. Any SUV will be stuck here. It grows where salt levels are high. I've ignored it once and then spent 2 days digging out my jeep. It took a long time. You dig and it sinks deeper and deeper. This is what's called a salt marsh. But it is in this salt marsh and shallow lakes that flamingos love to feed.
Именно вот в таких солонцовых сорах, озерах мелких очень любят кормиться фламинго.
In shallow water, we notice a white heron. You can watch it endlessly. The bird stands on one leg for a long time, waiting for its prey to take it by surprise. There is an abundance of frogs, tadpoles, small fish, and crustaceans in warm waters of the lake, a real feast for a heron all season round.
Крохотный лягушонок. Вид называется...
Tiny little frog. The species is called mole frog, the favorite food of herons for many waders. But of course not flamingos. I always wondered how these frogs survive here during winter. After all, the soil freezes down to a meter. Probably frogs freeze too, to wake up later. Most likely this little frog will be eaten by some heron.
Наверняка сегодня склюет какая-нибудь цапля на ужин.
On the shore, we found a pair of Demoiselle crane, big, strong birds. Their nest is somewhere near. Male and female take care of the offspring and selflessly protect the chicks, for example, from Cossack fox. They spread their wings, clapping, trying to frighten a predator, use their beaks and claws. On average, there are up to 5,000, in some years up to 10,000 of these red-listed birds here. A worried duck appeared from the thickets of reeds. Most likely ducklings hid somewhere nearby. I will try to find them and see how many ducks are there in one brood.
Here
they are, here. Mother duck flew off at the very last moment. There were 7 or 8 ducklings, all cleverly hidden. This is great. The same happens when they meet predators, any predator. It may be a steppe corsac or a bird of prey. Self-protection is inborn in ducklings. To hide, to lay low, to run away.
Защита – это врожденная утят. Только прятаться, затаиваться, убегать.
Alexei Koshkin, ichthyologist, met us at the Sultan-Keldy cordon. He is the oldest member of the reserve and has been working here since 1976. Our attention was attracted by birds conveniently sitting on the wires. Just like in the math problem, those are swallows. What kind of swallows are above our heads? People often make mistake calling them swifts. Those are actually swallows, but not the most commonly known barn swallow with long swallow tail. This one is bank swallow, also known as Saint Martin. This is, one might say, an advance party. Approximately in August, there will be about 20 to 30,000 of them. This is their favorite place because there is a lake nearby. Lake nearby means there are many invertebrates, Chironomidae, lake files larvae, lake files and mosquitoes that they feed on. This is their favorite place. Swallows rest on the wires, convenient and safe spot. They are not getting struck by electric current. There is no riddle in it. After all, they are sitting without touching the ground. There is no voltage difference between the bird and the cable. Power lines are safe for such small-sized birds, but if larger bird decides to take a seat, it might end tragically. We witnessed such drama on our way to the reserve.
В непосредственной близости от меня озеро Коргалzhyn. Здесь совершенно спокойно пасутся десятки фламинго, лебедей, гусей.
Korgalzhin is right next to where I'm standing. Flamingos graze here quite calmly. Flocks of swans, geese, and nearby power lines. Right below us there are wires carrying the light. Look, a few hours ago a tragedy happened here. This handsome pelican had died. I checked the body, it is still warm. Down feather layer is very dense, strong wings. The bird is plump, healthy. I carefully examined the legs in hope of finding rings. Unsuccessfully. Such tragedies occur here periodically. Pity. It is very saddening. But let's get back to the cordon. Here we saw a striking example of the good neighborly existence of man and bird. On one of the old buildings, Kestrel has built its nest. This is a bird of prey, a small falcon, and interestingly enough, it feeds on insects. Kestrel quickly gets used to humans. It's a very trusting bird. I often saw them catch big locusts, grasshoppers and locusts. This is easily prey. It can go for a mouse if the kestrel is patient enough, but mostly they catch grasshoppers. Do males take part in raising offspring? Yes, they are paired birds. Both males and females, falcons never abandon their chicks. They are good parents, they feed their chicks. Unfortunately, their brood reaches only up to 5 chicks. It would seem that with such fertility there should be many of them, but again, returning to the old problem, a lot of birds die on the roads. Can you tell when they will be able to fly? They are ready, they are eager to fly, running in anticipation. Maybe in a week, maybe sooner, they will learn to fly, but parents will continue to feed them.
Может, через неделю они уже вылетят, но родители еще будут продолжать их кормить.
Oskar Sixenbiev, the director of the reserve, meets us at the central cordon. I see several colorful houses with well-maintained yards. I ask the director if there are any guests visiting the reserve. A large number of bird watchers come to our reserve. Many specialists from Europe. Japanese ornithologists came this year, also from the United States, and people from various regions of Central Asia. Korgalzhyn Reserve is a strictly protected natural area. In 1976, the wetlands of the Tenghiz Korgalzhin lake system were included in the Ramsar list. In 2000, Lake Tenghiz joined the Global Living Lakes Network as one of the most unique lakes in the world. The reserve is included in the UNESCO World Heritage List as a biosphere reserve. Our task is to preserve nature intact. Do not cause stress to the birds, no hunting or fishing. Birds feel safe. You notice yourself how close they approach you. Same with animals. During winter, we also guard them. Saiga, antelope, wild boars, every animal in the reserve feels completely safe.
Точно так же и зимой наблюдаем такие моменты. Сайга, кабаны, все, что есть в нашем заповеднике, чувствуют себя в полной безопасности, я так думаю.
Travelers and tourists are not allowed into the reserve, but one can get acquainted with the nature of these unique places in the visit center. It is located on the territory of the head office in the Korgalzhin village. Large-scale maps, pictures from space, exhibits and diagrams representing the local flora and fauna, a documentary archive of those who were at the forefront of the creation of the reserve, all very interesting and informative. Expositions reveal a complete image of a unique natural object to visitors. By the way, Korgalzhyn Reserve Visit Center is among the best visit centers of Kazakhstan with its modern design and variety of thematic departments. What surprised us was the children's room. Here they even celebrate the Day of the Wetlands. And I imagine boys and girls who come here on a tour, they are getting educated with the idea of protecting wildlife. The visit center has a funny name that says Bird's Paradise. This is the starting point of all eco routes. It's time for us too to go back to nature. Now we are going on a small exhibition with the ichthyologists of the reserve. What for? We'll catch and tag fish to understand and track the route of its migration. Let's go. We are sailing in a rubber boat to the place where we'll tag the fish we caught. There is nothing difficult, ichthyologist says. Just take a special label on the red wire and attach to the dorsal fin. It will help to learn about the migration routes of fish. There were cases when, for example, pike was caught 25 kilometers from the place it has been tagged. It can swim this distance in 12 days. Decent speed for such not active fish. But crucians and trenches, according to the ichthyologist's observation, are rather conservative. They practically never migrate, prefer quiet native backwaters. Checking the nets. Another fish, gorgeous perch. Notice it's reddish, a real predator, big teeth, rough and striped. It has orange skin and scales and red tail. Let's measure it out. Let's do it.
по кругу. И хвостик красный. Ну-ка, давайте мы его померим. Вот он.
Here is the dorsal fin, and that is the tag. Now we need to weigh this fish, and most importantly, not letting it escape before we do so. Yes, measure the length and release it back into the water. It must stay alive.
По длине и выпустить, потому что рыба должна жить.
We caught pretty good perch, almost a giant, a little above 31 centimeters, 450 grams. Alexei carefully took a sample of scale. It turns out that by looking on scale, just like the cut of a tree, one can determine the age of the fish. You can even tell years with the naked eye, especially for carp, which has large scales. Annual rings are visible on a gleam. So we release the perch, swim away, grow big, serve the science. We swim further, I'm peering into the water expecting to see fish in the algae. But I only see fry, a lot of them, fertile year. Only a dozen out of a million will survive. Next to the boat, a solitary pelican drifts back and forth. Alexei throws him one fish after another. Fishermen have this tradition, the ichthyologist says. If a pelican swims up to you, you must feed it. Dalmatian pelican in Korgalzhyn. Its name is Gosha. He lets us come so close. We were just checking while making measurements, checked the fish and threw one to him, just to see whether he gets it or not.
Поймали рыбу и бросили ему. Вот посмотрим сейчас, будет он кормиться или не будет.
Gosha didn't turn down our offering. 3 mil immediately got the attention of his relatives. Another pair of pelicans swam closer to our boat. Catching a pike is a challenge for them. They mainly go for shoaling fish. Those are represented here by crucians, perches, roaches, ides. These are their main source of food. It's easier to catch that fish. Without wasting too much energy, one might say a lazy hunt. They surround them in a semicircle, often combine forces with cormorants. Cormorant dives, getting fish to the surface of pelicans to catch them. Up to 3,000 pelicans nest on Korgalzhin lakes. Regional total of this bird population reached from 5 to 8,000 individuals. Large population of pelicans indicates large number of fishes in the reservoirs. According to the ichthyologist, cormorants and pelicans alone eat about 7 tons of fish daily. This is a lot, so we need calculation and scientific observations of the fish. We docked to the shore. Once life was in full swing here, fishing farms were flourished. After the formation of the reserve in 1968, the fishermen were relocated to other areas. Alexei Koshkin is a true connoisseur and conservationist. He has his own secrets, how to observe birds undetected, how to make a great camera shot of an animal in the wild. For this, it's vital for bird not to be afraid of us. To achieve this, one must disguise himself. Best option is self-made camouflage net, tied with old bags, burlap, grassy, to hide anything shiny. This is the basis. Then, if you lie on the salt marsh in black wormwood, this grit is decorated with a black rag. If you are lying down and somewhere near there is a yellow reed, then take this reed and stick it here. You need to adapt. That is called mimicry. It is also necessary to make a comfortable bedstone so you won't freeze on the damp ground. Hideout itself should not stand out above the horizon line, then it will be convenient to observe the life of wetlands. A photo hunter should have a lot of patience, and in no case should he disturb the birds. That's how the most successful pictures of rare birds are obtained, says Alexei Koshkin. Meanwhile, the sun has faded. Twilight descended to earth, which means that it's time for us to leave this magical land of bird songs, free winds, and amazing natural harmony.